Hi, and welcome to Festival of the Unexplained. I'm Karen, one of your hosts this weekend.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And we have next for you the lovely Sean Austin. And he needs no introductions. You must have heard of him. If you haven't, we want to know why. So I shall introduce him, bring him up on screen now, and we get to know a little bit more about him. Hello.
How are we doing, guys?
Good, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. I know you're very busy and you're away again at the moment. So, Sean, for those people who don't know about you, which I'm sure there's not that many, would you just like to let everyone know a little bit about yourself, please?
Gosh, well, I've been investigating the paranormal for over 11 years now. I'll be the 12th next year. I also, psychic medium abilities. I've been trained and mentored in demonology to be a demonologist. And I'm a published author, just released my second book. Obviously been on, Travel Channel with the recent show Ghost Loop and Demon Files with my mentor in demonology, Ralph Sarchi. And yeah, just constantly being busy with what I'm passionate about doing, using my experiences, however I can to help people and souls that I come in contact with.
So where are you at the moment?
Right now we are in, actually I'm going to keep asking you, how do you say this? Landall's Mohegan Castle in Ohio. It's a beautiful, absolute gorgeous castle in Ohio. Actually, we just found out it was recently on an episode of Ghost Hunters. We've come here to investigate and do some research of some of the claims that's been going on here. And there's been a lot of stuff going on here. And it's that time of year for someone like myself and anyone into the paranormal that's, an investigator, researcher, and so forth. It's like a paranormal investigator holiday season, September, October. And, it's just, I've been traveling a lot, going around and doing a lot of filming and investigating and stuff like that. So pushing hard, especially after all the quarantine stuff that everyone's been experiencing. I'm trying to be busy, and especially with something I'm passionate about doing. So
yeah, we're still in that situation at the moment, so we're not really able to go out at the moment still. So we're still in that situation, unfortunately. So you said you've been at this castle now. Is this the second day you've been there now?
Yes, this will be our second day, and night we'll be investigating some more tonight.
So did you get anything last night, or you allowed to tell us anything you did get last night?
Oh, sure. We had Class A EVPs, some really eerie stuff come through. There's actually a cemetery right on the property that dates back to the early 1800s. There was a church that burned down on the property, and it seems like there's some suspicious potential behind that burning of the church. And we actually got references to that, such as a word as arson, and just lots of different things around when it comes to energies. And we actually found out that they said that there's fault lines here, which could be some sort of energetic force for the spirits to feed off, or be some sort of spiritual highway. Like a vortex of some sort. So, I mean, from what the stuff that was coming through here, there's a lot of different spirits coming through, and also from other locations that I've been to before, which is usually some sort of sign to me that there is some sort of portal of some sort where spirits can come in and out of. And that's why you get references to so many different places in one location that you're currently at.
We've had that, haven't we? When we've been to different places, we've got the same spirits come through, but at different locations. Mm-hmm. We literally had this. We had that this weekend. We had some coming through from another location we recently did, and Dennis wasn't there, but they were actually referred to him and asked where he was, which was quite interesting. So yeah, I definitely believe in that as well. I think there's definitely some sort of port. They don't just stay in one place. I don't believe, and I believe they also can communicate with you wherever you go. They can communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I personally believe that there's a lot of different levels of the innovation of what spirits are actually able and capable of doing. I don't think it's just ever one answer. When it comes to different frequencies, the emotional state of the spirit can be in so many different levels, and also, they could actually be at a lower state, or could be in some of the lower realm stuff, and that's some of the dark negative stuff. But also consciously, energetically, what their ball of energy, their spirit energy actually represents is, their emotional state. And that would have something to do with what they went through in life and why they're still earthbound. They haven't let go of the human life, or they want justice for their death, or they're attached to locations or people. There's just so many diversified ways that people will actually pass away tragically, or lives that they lived that actually could learn, or actually ends up stuck in some sort, whether it's their fault, where they have no choice, or they have a choice, or they're scared of judgment. So I just think there's so many different answers to that question. But obviously, all we can do is speculate, but we try to further that research by investigating further.
Okay. We've got some questions for you. I hope that's okay.
Absolutely, bring them.
Leading on, because what you were just talking about, so leading on to a couple of questions we've got, would basically coincide with what you've just been talking about. So one of the questions we have is, what, in your opinion, happens when we, I don't like to say die, I like to say pass over, but, you know, everyone's different.
Well, I mean, if you're saying pass over, then you're someone who actually believes in that transition. Someone who's asking when we die, I think it's kind of referring to our physical body. Once our physical body actually ceases to exist and doesn't have the energy to make it alive in the physical plane, I mean, obviously energy lives on and it transitions into another form. And obviously someone like myself and you guys, we that's why we do what we do. We go out and find out these answers because we've had so many of these types of experiences to prove that notion. We just want to understand why, what, where, and how. But yes, I believe that our soul is attached to our physical body, something called with a silver cord. And once that cord is breached and severed, you are a ball of consciousness and energy that will live on. And you know, where that goes afterwards, obviously, it depends on the soul, you know, when they were alive, and are they going to choose to stay, or are they stuck, or are they scared to go, and to go into the light and go into heaven? And that's why what we call a ghost really is a recipe of an earthly bound spirit that has not let go of the human life they once lived. I always like to tell people that we're spiritual beings living in a human body for the human experience. It's not, you know, the other way around. Our souls came to these physical bodies to learn the lessons that we're capable of learning, to broaden their horizons and bring a brightness to our soul, potentially with the gift of free will that we have in our lives, to be ultimately more like God, in my opinion, which is full of unconditional love and forgiveness. We can share that light through the world with the gifts that we have throughout our lives. And, you know, one thing's for sure, I've always said that, you know, life is never meant to be perfect. It's about learning through struggle, turning dark, horrific events that you may have to endure and somehow turning into something positive, from dark to light, and then sharing that example. And that's really what makes our soul progress without having the knowledge. And that's where faith comes in. And I think that's a real key element that's, you know, behind the scenes and how we should be guided throughout our life.
See, I believe that when we're actually in our physical body, we're here just to learn. Mm-hmm. I feel this is just a learning curve. And also, I feel like we're here to learn, and when we progress on, I feel that we are still learning. Just because we haven't got a physical body anymore, I don't think it doesn't change. For me, it doesn't change anything. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I'll go into a little bit about, you know, myself when it comes to my religious background. Like I am Catholic, but I consider myself Catholic and spiritual now. I know it doesn't say in the Bible, but I actually believe in reincarnation.
I suppose just having some technical issues there.
I saw that.
Oh, you're back. Okay, you're back.
Okay, so I was just going to say that, in my opinion, because it makes you wonder, like, why would there be children's spirits that are still stuck in earthbound? And you think about some sort of cycle of the soul that might be meant to endure more, even after their physical body's deceased. Somehow in the spiritual realm, they're still learning a lesson, because you think about these souls, and I mean, I go to all these places and show that next level of respect to try to pray for them and offer to pray for them and see if they can send them into the light, to give them that acknowledgement and incentive to go. And you think about, like, they're still suffering. And so in some of these cases, I really do believe that the souls have the choice to go. They're just terrified. There might be a negative entity that's holding them back, or they're just afraid to go. They're letting go of what they, you know, that human life, but that's not the element of who we are. And because of that, there's still, like you said, there's still lessons that we can learn even after death, if they have not transitioned back into the light. Because I always try to tell the spirit sometimes that, you know, the answers to why we came into these bodies, specific bodies with specific experiences, specific, you know, things that we had to go through in our lives for a reason. And those answers are in the light. Yeah, you have to let go and let God. You have to accept God's unconditional love and forgiveness. And you know, this will all be a path towards, you know, peace. and you're not letting go of anything. You're just transitioning to a higher consciousness of energy. And I definitely agree with that. So, there's just a lot to think about. It's
energy.
Everything
has energy, doesn't it, at the end of the day? Literally, everything around us has energy.
Mm-hmm.
One question that we got was with the trapped souls. It must feel really good to cross over some of the souls into the light that, like you say, you explained, that I'm still like earthbound.
Yeah. It brings a whole new level of fulfillment and purpose to what I'm doing. It's not just about investigating, getting answers for myself and sharing it. I mean, I think it's important to share experiences in general, but when I go to residential homes and try to help families and things like that, who might be dealing with a demonic force or something like that. I mean, this goes a little deeper when it comes to like malevolent, evil, demonic stuff. But I mean, you're trying to help souls from being taken by the devil. The demons and devil, they want the souls of these people, and you're trying to prevent that to happen. And you deal with some of these souls that are suffering. And I've had souls that I believe that demonic forces are, incorporated into these, scenarios of what these spirits are enduring and why they're stuck. Yeah. And I've had these demonic things come to me and tell me and threaten me, and it piss off some serious negative spirits of crossing over spirits. And that's why, I've always said this quotation that, you step in the way of evil, you make yourself an adversary to the enemy of man, and that's the devil. And you got to be prepared for that choice, because once you make an enemy with evil, they're always going to look for a crack in your aura throughout your life. Yeah. Step away from the paranormal, they're going to want to retaliate. There's no conception of time in the spirit realm. But absolutely, I would see. It feels like I was called to start praying for spirits, and the reciprocation of evidence showing that respect to spirits. And that's a method that I started doing. I would live stream, and I would just leave the spirit box on, because I don't want to just say myself that a spirit's crossing over. I might get a psychic impression. I would see a white dove for a female crossing over, or a white horse. Or sometimes I'll see a combination of stuff and I try to guesstimate, but I'll say something out loud. And then to have the evidence to back up my intuitive ability of what I'm picking up on, and gives that evidence to people who are watching too. But also shows people that prayer does work when these spirits are just begging for prayer and they come to you. And then the level of evidence is just, again, reciprocated to such a level that if more people showed that respect to spirits, I think there would be more value in the evidence that they're able to obtain.
It is all about respect, though, isn't it? It's something that we say a lot about. You respect people in life, so why not respect them in death? You should, at the end of the day, in our opinion, and that's something that we talk about with a lot of people, don't we? That's something that always comes up, is about having respect for the afterlife, for spirit, basically.
Yeah. So we're brothers and sisters. We come from the same source of light. To me at this point, if there's spirits asking for help, I mean, if it's a woman or a child and stuff, I mean, I consider that just driving on the highway and seeing a woman and child on the floor bleeding. It's like, are you going to drive past them, or are you going to stop and see what happens, see if you can help out? And, that's how I just compare the two. It's the same thing. I mean, we're lucky to have these experiences, and them to show us station, to give us information that we can learn, for our souls, and then share that with other people. So we should, share that same appreciation by at least trying to help them. And again, I mean, I was just here with my buddy Dave Spinks here, is another great investigator I've gone on many investigations throughout the country with. But I mean, we helped out with a ghost walk last night, and literally just said my name. I took the spirit box and then said pray. Like immediately, these spirits know, and they call out my name. They know what I do, and they I've had things happen to me before I go to places. I mean, actually, before I went to a place called Hillview Manor, I went there for the first time about a month and a half ago, and I was driving in the car in Pennsylvania, and I just felt someone tapping me constantly. I'm like, this has never happened. This consistently in my car like this out of nowhere. And I decide to go live on Periscope, which I usually live broadcast my investigations. And I'm just telling people, like, someone keeps touching me in my car. I don't know what's going on. And I have a radio in my car that I can actually turn the dial. You can shift spirit box. So, I mean, I'm asking, who's here? And I heard psychically the name Sam. And I'm like, Sam, are you here? And he goes, it's me. And I'm just like, did you follow me here? Or are you from the place that I'm going to tonight? Where'd you come from? And it goes, Hillview. And I'm like, wow, that's clear as day, and then everyone's freaking out watching live, and I'm like, why are you in the car with me? What is this? She's like, it's bring the light and pray for us. We're waiting or something like that. And everyone's just freaking out. Like, and when I got to the location, like they were literally saying like, we knew you were coming. We wanted you to bring the light. And it's just, it just goes back to that question somebody asked me. It's just like, it's very fulfilling to know that, even to have the chance or potential to be able to help souls and to have them to come out and seek you, knowing what you do, knowing what you're capable of doing, and have that genuine intent to want to help them. The reciprocation, again, of experiences and evidence that you'll get is just beyond astounding.
See, I think it's a privilege to be able to help to move somebody on to where they want to be, especially if they're being held back as well.
Mm-hmm. What if that was you? You got to put yourself in their shoes.
Exactly.
There's some souls trapped in sort of dark location, and someone's coming in there and just say, "Hey, man, knock something over for me because I want to get it on camera." And they do it for you, and then you just take off and leave. But they're stuck in some sort of purgatory dimension, and they're still stuck there. I mean, that's like a spiritual prison of some sort. It's such a valuable thing. I mean, we know that acknowledgement energizes spirits, and I believe that's why a lot of these earthbound spirits try to communicate with us, because they haven't let go of their human life. So they're actually trying to communicate with us, and they gravitate towards the people that are actually sensitive because they can see it around your aura, that you're more open, and they have a better chance to feel, hear, or see them. So, that connection, that acknowledgement will actually make them feel like they're human again, that they're alive in the physical plane, because you're a human being still in the physical plane, and you're saying, hey, and we know that gives them energy, but to also, get down to that level and try to convince them. You get a voice, you get a name, and you're saying, I'm going to say a prayer for you. You got to let go. Whatever happened to you, you got to let go. It's, there's a path towards forgiveness. There's a path towards peace. And like the prayer that I actually came up with, where I actually made a little improv incorporated with some normal, Catholic prayers, is I actually pray for their loved ones to come to the light as I, do a visualization of white light. And I pray to Archangel Michael to actually help these spirits. And I feel like that's another big piece to the puzzle that could actually give them the extra incentive to go if they see your face. And the intent is such another profound element when it comes to the paranormal. I mean, you cannot hide behind your intent. If you have ulterior motives for the sake of egotistical or materialistic reasons, the spirits know this, they smell this on you, and they'll use it against you, or they'll brush away from you and they won't give you what you want, because they know what you're doing, unless it's something malicious, and they'll use you as a puppet. So, there's no hiding.
I don't blame them either.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like you said, you have to put yourself in their position, and how would you like it if that you were in their situation and you were being treated in that way? So,
going back to the beginning of when you first started, when did you first realize you had the gift of mediumship?
So, I got involved in the paranormal because a buddy of mine, he's the biggest skeptic ever. And I took him to a cemetery that has a local lore of 3 women in white that would chase you out of the cemetery. So I took him there, and he's laughing the entire night. And I just had a phone. I had a flip phone right before smartphones came out, and I was recording audio with it. And it had a really cheap, crappy audio recorder in there. But as we know, as investigators, the more white noise, the more crappy the recording, the EVP is. So I was in front of this little girl's grave at Jenny, and I asked this little girl if she's still here. And I just remember sitting there. I thought I heard it with my own ears, but I didn't listen back to the recordings till the next day. And then I had a little child, a girl, respond to my question saying, my 2 toys died. And a defining moment that triggered for me, just chills and freaked out, scared, but I was exhilarated and excited. And it, I started going out to figure out to attain that next tier of experience to learn more about it. Because I'd watch these documentaries and really believe in people's experiences that they were going through in their houses and all stuff, like a haunting on Discovery Channel. And 2-3 weeks later, I saw a shadow of a little girl in the corner of my bed. It was already light out, it wasn't even dark, and I just yelped like a little girl, and it disappeared. But as soon as I started to engage the spirit realm, I started having many experiences. Just within that first year, just having premonitions, dreams. I just remember would be like being at a cemetery, and I, for instance, like I'd be there with a buddy of mine, and I would hear like, "Watch out!" And I just go to my friend. I'm like, yo, did you just hear someone say, watch out? And he's like, no, I didn't hear anything, but I was actually recording audio, and you actually hear on the recording, watch out. And you hear, did you hear someone say, watch out? So I started to notice that I'm like hearing stuff that was on some of the recordings. And then I never thought I'd have psychic abilities. We all have the psychic abilities,
yeah,
but
we all have it. We're all born with it. It's whether you choose to develop it and to use it or not. Again, it comes back down to personal choice.
Yeah, and it just developed from there. I mean, and it's still developing, because I discovered my abilities in the middle of my life. I didn't know I would be involved in the paranormal, let alone have some sort of psychic abilities. It happened out of nowhere, and I try to be as objective as possible. And that's why, again, I like to, use some of the scientific equipment we have to correlate or to give backing and validation to what I'm experiencing psychically. And
it's a backup, isn't it? Almost like for me, I use it as a backup. So when it comes to using equipment, because we've got, my brain has gone black now, 4 mediums on our team. So, and we all work completely differently, but having that equipment, having that backup, having that EVP, having that recording or so on, or corroborating what the other person said, but they're upstairs and you're downstairs, but you're filling in the gaps.
Yeah, and I was really excited when I first did the pilot series with Ralph Sarchi, when I was, investigator for him, and obviously he's the one who mentored me in demonology. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with him.
No, I'm not. To be perfectly honest, no, I'm not.
Do you know the movie Deliver Us from Evil with Eric Bana?
Yeah.
Okay, that's based on Ralph's book. That's based on his literally stories. He was a demonologist. He worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren in the beginning, and then his mentors were Father Malachi Martin and Bishop McKenna, who are probably the most respected exorcists of our time. So I was definitely humbled to be taught by him when it comes to demonology. But we did a pilot series called The Demon Files, where we tried to help families dealing with demonic hauntings. And I was really, really stoked, that I was able to have evidence of my psychic abilities. We were on this one case, this poor girl that had tried to commit suicide before, did a satanic ritual and did blood on a pentagram. And, once again, I literally was like on the bed in this one instance, and I just heard, I tell my buddy, I just heard the name Billy. And then I listen back to the recording, and you just hear this kid go, my name's Billy. And you just hear me go, I just heard the name Billy. And I was able to get on the show. And then I tasted crushed pills in my mouth. Ralph was in front of this mirror, and I didn't know, but I wasn't aware, but she was actually looking into this mirror when she took a bunch of these pills and tried to take her life. And I wasn't aware of that. And it tasted like crushed up Tylenol pills in my mouth. To be able to do that sort of thing, or, being on some sort of spectacle, like a TV show I had never been on, I was so happy. And I realized that how important it is to have validation when it comes to your abilities. I don't want to just say something out loud and just based on what I say. I want something else for people, pick up or give confirmation of what I'm experiencing. And to also, ultimately, you want to be able to bring your abilities when it comes to just using equipment or your spiritual gifts, whatever it is, to be able to help out. The ultimate goal is helping families or people if they truly need it.
Yeah, like I said, I agree with you when it comes to validation. That's like the most important for me. That's really important to get that validation that that you've done something correctly, or you've got the correct information and so on, and you can help, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is really important for me. You wanted to ask. Oh, I put the question. I keep forgetting I can put the questions on the screen. I'm always forgetting about this bit.
Learning the demonology and having a strong Roman Catholic faith, how do they both help when approaching any investigations?
Well, they always say that it's not something to just pick up one day and all right, I'm going to be a demonologist. And even when I started investigating the paranormal, when I first started out, and then someone brought me on a radio podcast, and they were telling me you have a calling, and it was just they were talking about demonology, and I guess my passion was coming out. I'm becoming very articulate in just my experiences and stuff like that. And people were starting to say you have a calling. And it seems like I was drawn into that sort of thing with dealing with dark stuff. It's just, say for instance, let's give you a quick little experience. I wrote about in my first book, Shadow Chaser, about my paranormal experiences. A girl 3 years before I decided to get involved in the paranormal, a girl never told me this story. But she told me this when she saw me posting stuff about paranormal on social media out of nowhere. So she had said this one night, she pulled up to my house that I was living at with 4 roommates in a house. And she saw this black hooded thing staring into my window of the house. And it turned its head, had black eyes and a whitish face. and it disappeared. She said it was the most terrifying thing she ever saw. And she never even wanted to tell me because she thought I would have thought she was crazy. But once she thought that I was actually doing this stuff, she felt compelled to tell me. And it's just one of those things where, like, no conception of time, and these dark demonic or satanic forces are probably watching me from the outside before I actually trigger the response within what I like to call the spiritual rules of engagement. When you actually start to engage these things, that's when, things can start to happen to you a lot more than your average experience. But I was drawn into it. There was things that happened to me in my story, and having faith is a real important value approaching it. You can't fight these spirits with your fists or guns. Witnessed evil spirits react negatively of religious significance, and even a story I just wrote about in my second book, the sequel to Shadow Chaser, about my paranormal experiences, called Shadow Chaser: The In-Between. I wrote about the harrowing story about this girl that was pregnant and possessed. It's a very defining moment for my faith too. Is before I started working with Ralph, I have the recording, and I was on the phone with her, which would be many phone calls. No one wanted to touch this case with a 10-foot pole because she was pregnant and possessed, and if something happened to the baby, you could be held accountable. But you get emotionally drawn into these cases. You feel bad for them. This girl was latching on to me, calling me all the time, and I just tried to do my best to help in any way that I could, as I'm sure most people would. But she would call me and speak English backwards, and talk in a manly type voice and freaky, saying, "Sean, she's mine." And I just remember this one time she just went silent after speaking something nasty, and I just had a crucifix like 6 inches tall. She can't see the phone, and as soon as I put the cross up to the phone, hissed at me, and it's just like pure chills to the bone. But it's just like witnessing something like that brings such validity to your faith. And that's those types of experiences is something why my faith is so important when it comes to these things and approaching these types of cases, because the most delicate nature of the paranormal is the psychological spiritual attacks that these things can do to you. And most times you see on some shows or Hollywood, it's like you think just the furniture is going to be thrown around, or someone's just going to automatically get possessed. I mean, they'll sit there and try to mentally break you down and become reclusive, where you'd ultimately want to harm yourself or harm others that you care about, where they'd amplify any sort of negative emotion that a human being can have, sadness, anger, depression, until they finally, it could turn into possession, which is rare. But there's a lot of oppression, demonic oppression that happens out there. But yes, I hold my faith very true to heart. I pray every single day, protections. I wear a blessed St. Michael pendant around my neck right here, that was actually touched by the relic of the true cross that Jesus was crucified on, that Ralph has. And anything it touches is considered a third-class relic. And pretty much everywhere I go, even last night when I was investigating, it would mention my pendant. He's protected, things like that. And you even have, again, spirits giving value to my faith and saying that he's protected to some degree from my faith. And, you have evidence of this as you go through it, because in the beginning I felt like I was in over my head, and you just don't know what you're doing. But real faith is really truly believing in the fact that God's more powerful than any devil, demon, or diabolical force. And if you stand in front of a demon, I can get startled. I've been alone in a cemetery live streaming. I see an 8-foot shadow standing right in front of me, hooded, and I get startled for a second, but I have to literally believe that God's more powerful than that, because if I don't, it's going to use it against me. And I always use the comparison. If God told you to walk between the top of 2 mountains and there's no bridge there, that first step out into the air where you could either fall to your death or there's a bridge there that's going to get you, that's real faith. You got to use that level of faith when you are in front or you feel the presence of evil. That's real faith. And just like a vampire movie, you put a cross in front of a vampire, they recoil for a second, and then they start laughing. And what do they say? You got to have faith. And it's the same exact idea here.
Yeah.
Another question we've got is, out of all the locations you've done, visited, especially how you've been busy the last few months, has there ever been a location you found yourself disappointed with?
Disappointed with? I mean, there's always places that end up being, they might not live up to the hype that you hear about if you're just going to investigate. I mean, there was some creepy stuff. I was just at the Sally house and I was expecting like someone to get scratched or something like that. And there was some really creepy stuff happening, but I was expecting a little bit more. I wouldn't say disappointed, just like you expect more, but every experience is special. It's unique and characterized to the location that you go to. It's just, you can't base it on something like that. I mean, yeah, you can get let down, but I mean, it just is what it is. You never can expect.
You never have an expectation. I think wherever you go anywhere, you will be disappointed if you go in with expectations. You should go in just open to whatever's going to happen, rather than go in expecting this, that, and the other. Because it's the higher expectation, the more disappointed you are.
Really weird. So I don't know. Really strange. I thought I heard a fly buzzing. That's really weird. Okay. That gets into a whole nother story. It talks about actually Amityville. I actually wrote a chapter about it in my second book. And that sort of thing would actually happen to me when I was writing the story. I'd actually hear flies buzzing in my ear. I was trying to get through the story. Everything happens for a reason. That's why it's special when something amazing does happen. Because if it happened all the time, it wouldn't be so remarkable and shocking. And that's why we go out and search. We sit here for hours and hours and hours of investigating, engaging these spirits in all these different locations that have different, pieces of history and the emotional energies that are attached to it because of that history. So, I mean, you got to be appreciative and very, truly, genuinely patient at the same time. I mean, I'm appreciative to any little ounce of experience that I have. That's just comes along with the territory. But I get excited going to a new place. Even if there's not much that happens, it's still another place that you've been to, and it's a piece of your story.
I think it's more so the public. They watch these TV shows and they think something's going to happen just like that. So when they do come to investigations, and if nothing happens, comes where they expect something to happen, they think, oh, this is, they come to all sorts of conclusions, don't they? And that's where it's pointed. And then they always say, oh, all sorts about these places. Yeah,
I hate to interject with that whole weird thing. Like, I literally thought I heard a fly buzzing by the computer.
That's all right.
So I'll tell you a little bit about that really quick. I mean, I'll obviously.
I was going to after finish. I was going to ask you anyway, because now you've said something, you've got to tell us. How can you not?
So I wrote a chapter in my book about my personal paranormal experiences having to do with the Amityville house. So I actually went about a few years ago. I went by the Amityville house. I live streamed. I went actually first to the DeFeo family grave, and I have it on video. And I had asked who's still here from the DeFeo family, and it said John. And I asked who's the demon that made Ronald kill his family, and it said a demon's name. So I sat there in my car next to the grave because there's people walking around. I don't want to, interrupt anyone visiting their loved ones, and just had it on. And this little kid's voice starts coming through saying, "It's John, it's me." And I'd say, as always, I'm like, I want to try to help this kid. And obviously, demonic entities can, disguise themselves as children and things like that. And I asked the kid, I'm like, do you want me to pray for you? He goes, please. And in my opinion, no demonic entity would ever want you to pray for any reason at all, bring you closer to God. No way. So I prayed for this kid, as I would. And I prayed for him. I went by the house, and the kid still came through. And then I heard the name George come through. And that's when it started. I don't think whatever's still around that house and have to do with that story is, it's true evil. I mean, it started coming to me. The first experience I had, there's a drawing of it, my vision in the book, Shadow Chasing the In-Between. One of the first things that happened to me, I saw a vision. I walked inside the Amityville house, and I was looking up the stairs, and I saw 3 perfect shadow figures on the top of the stairs. And I yelled out to these shadow figures, and I said, if that boy John's here, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to let him go. And there was a piano in the adjacent room, picks up and throws at me. And when it hit me, I felt the jolt in my bed. And I jumped up, and I saw a black mist go right through my ceiling. And I looked at the time. It was 3:15 in the morning. If you don't know, that's the time of the murders. This is something that started to happen constantly. I'd be waking up, visions about the house, waking up at 3:15, hearing flies buzzing, looking down at the house like I was floating above the Amityville house. It just all this sorts of weird stuff. And then doing investigations, and George Lutz is coming through the spirit box, Ronald DeFeo's voice coming through and saying, I'm in prison. And I believe it's one of the demonic entities that are still possessing him in prison. I had all these weird things would start to happen to me having to do with the house. Another example, there's somebody that actually messaged me on Instagram when I was writing the chapter. And this kid was like, I've been researching the case for the last 15 years. I'm really, it's been really interesting, but it's creepy too. And he told me that he actually met someone online that actually bought the negatives to the DeFeo family murder scene that nobody actually had, like the real, raw pictures. And he said that when he actually got the negatives, this man started having demonic activity in his home and waking up 3:50 in the morning. And this guy that I'm talking to, he had asked for copies of it. He got the copies online, and then he started waking up at the same time, demonic activity in his home. And then he stopped talking to this guy because he's getting freaked out. And he said that he found out a year later that the same man who bought the negatives committed suicide and hung himself. And, I had asked him to write a little piece for me. And then he said stuff started to happen to him again. I mean, myself was having experiences too, so I can understand this. So he was a little frightened, but I put the story in there. I mean, obviously I don't know these people. I'm objective about it, but like, I do know that I was experiencing a lot of creepy, weird things having to do with the case ever since I had something involved with it. And actually Ralph got involved with me too. We went to the house and we did a session outside. It's just, it's just really strange. It's really creepy. There's legitimacy to that story. And, I know a lot of people think it's a hoax, but it's all about your firsthand experience. Something like a world-renowned case like the Amityville Horror, it's a lot of criticism is going to come along this way. But if you experience something yourself, that's how you discover it. And I'm going to tell you right now, whatever evil that was in that house or having to do with that case, it is real. It has come to me, and it's been right in front of my face. And I wrote about it in a story, and it's just really creepy that I literally like heard a fly buzzing right through the freaking laptop right now. And I'm just like, here we go again. It's just one of those things. And those are the cases that actually fascinate me the most and make me want to write about them, are the ones that actually stick to you like spiritual ooze, and they just latch onto you for like weeks or months, and it's still around you. And it's just like, there's just something about it. I don't know why that would do that according to, different cases or investigations that you've been on, but Amityville is definitely one of those ones, and it's definitely one of the most profound ones by far.
You always have that one big personal experience. You have lots of personal experiences, but I think there's always that one that really just gets you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you said, it just always stays with you. It's one of those ones that stay with you forever. It just doesn't matter what happened before or what happens after. You always get that certain one that will always stay there no matter what.
Oh yeah. And that's just one of the most interesting cases too. I mean, the Amityville case, sorry to interrupt you, but the family, and they're all laying down, face down. Someone, Ronald walking around the house with a rifle that should have made noise. The entire neighborhood should have heard, and no one got up, no one ran around, and like he just ran around. They were all face down, and he killed them all. And to know the similarities to the Native Americans that actually buried their criminally insane or believed to be possessed, that they say under the property, they were all face down as well. I mean, there's got to be some sort of connection to that. And in my opinion, I'm thinking there may have been some sort of mass-induced muting of the sound of the gun and mass-induced sleep paralysis within the entire family, so they weren't capable of moving. So this could actually occur because the evil was so prevalent and powerful in that home.
Wow. Well, going back to your book, because I should mention now. So you've got. Oh, I've gone all funny then. Okay, that sounds normal again now. Ish, normal for me anyway. You've got the Shadow Chasers book is the first one that you wrote, and then you've got the follow-on. They're both available on Amazon, aren't they, to purchase? Oh.
Yeah, so if you live, obviously you guys are in the UK, so anyone who wants to purchase of my first book, Shadow Chaser or Shadow Chase the In Between, they're both available on Amazon. I mail out signed books to people in the US because, I mean, shipping is just ridiculous to try to get a book across the country and end up paying 3 times the book. So, but yeah, you can get off Amazon. And yeah, I never thought I'd be releasing books. It's just something strange, and here I am.
I'd say, how did it come about you writing? Was it just you started writing about your experiences and it developed into writing a book, or did you or was it you set out to in the first place? This is just a question that I want to ask you, basically.
I had so many experiences, that were stacking up that I just felt like I have enough to start to write about it. And I just, I figured, this might be a good idea to actually share these stories with people, because it can, even if it helps one person or millions of people, you're making a difference. You're making spiritual awareness get out there. And I just felt compelled to do it because I had had so much happen to me. And now that I've gotten one out, and then just all these other crazy things happen, I just continue it. It's just like publicizing a diary of your paranormal experiences and just telling.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it basically an extension of everything you've documented when you've been out and you've been doing the investigations and so on? So I take it that's basically how it came about. You documented everything, and then it turned into a book because you had so much.
Oh yeah, and that's how it is. And look how many places that I go to. I'd
love to go to how places you do in a week.
Yeah, and also being sensitive to spirits and having medium abilities, you attract so much more than your average person. I mean, when I go to sleep, I have some of the most profound paranormal experiences that I've had. Actually, it's some people are like, oh, it's terrifying, I can't sleep. I mean, sometimes you get interrupted and stuff, but the way I perceive it is it's a humbling gift too, because I can actually rest my body and still attain experiences and knowledge even when my physical body needs to sleep. So I consider that an advantage to learn more even when I'm sleeping.
I don't know about you, but sometimes, when you go to locations, you feel like you've been to that location, and sometimes you'll have an experience, but you already know you're going to have that experience because it's either happened in a dream or you've had a premonition.
And that happens to me a lot. I mean, specific locations, just like I said, like there's just some of them that will reach out and I'll have some sort of introduction to what is going on a property. And then, I'll arrive at a location, I'll realize that's the dream, or I might know it before it. It just depends. Yeah. I might realize it in the process, during, or before. It's an interesting thing, but there's certain places that definitely connect to me on a psychic level.
Do you feel you get drawn to places? Because I've had it before where somebody's mentioned to me about, I think, usually it's you. No, it says to me, shall we, I really want to go here, or you'll mention a location you want to go to. And I'll say to you, I've already contacted them because I've already felt the need that I need to contact that place to go and book it, to go investigate it. That happens quite a lot. That Dennis will say about different locations, and I'm like, yeah, I've already contacted them, already sent them an email or something, because for whatever reason, I felt that I've needed to, that we're supposed to go there.
This has happened on many different cases where individual types of spirits will connect to a certain individual for a certain reason, and they'll make them feel connected to a location for whatever that reason is. That person might discover it somewhere along the way. I mean, even if someone was moving into a home, I've heard so many different types of cases where things were connected to the history of the property, and they wanted a certain soul to come in there and connect to them for whatever the reason, because they were similar to somebody that they're reminded of when they were alive. I mean, there's so many different things why they would connect you or draw you to a place. People like us, I mean, obviously the first thing we want to do is investigate and research to figure what that is. I mean, we're all prone to, anything that triggers a response. I mean, being an investigator, every little sound. That's why I'm sitting here. I'm like, all right, I heard something weird. I mean, like every little noise, you're like, what was that? We were actually last night, like we were in the hotel room, and just like, it sounded like someone was knocking on the door of the hotel room. And my buddy and I have we investigated a bunch of places before. I mean, I remember one time we investigated his house, and he actually owns this place called Willow's Weep. It actually was featured on the Unexplained William Shatner. And we investigated this place for an entire week. And we were at the hotel in the last night, and we heard this switch go up. Now, the switch goes on, the light goes on in the bathroom. And it's one of those thick, heavy switches. Like, you had to really push up to get that switch up. We're just sitting there in bed, like looking at each other, like, did that seriously just happen? Like, every little noise, every little thing, you just got to go check it out. You want to go, all right, what was that? Try to figure out if it's something rational. I mean, that's just the lifestyle we live, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like that in this house, literally, we found out since we've moved here through one of the mediums that in the team that gave us some information. So I've looked it all up, and everything that they've said is literally spot on. It's like even the surname of who used to own the house and so on, just all this different stuff. Because it's like you said about being drawn to places. When we came here to view this house, I felt like I'd been here before, and as soon as I walked through the front door to come and view it, I knew I was supposed to live here. I don't know why. I just knew that I was supposed to. So I do believe that when it's not just haunted location, I think that even places you live and so on. Like I said, I know for definite I was supposed to live here for whatever reason. I don't know yet, but there was a reason why I was brought here.
There's a reason for everything. There are no coincidences. I think when it comes to spiritual stuff, I mean, I also have a term for like synchronicities. I call them like spiritual billboards because they're just all there in front of you. Once you're open to it, you will receive information and guidance. If you pay attention, if you're open to it, things will just start to. It's the law of attraction, really. And the more you notice it, the more it will come to you, and you'll discover that.
We've got another question here, which is what you've been talking about just now is what is the next location you plan to investigate and why? Are you drawn to anywhere specific that you haven't been to before?
We're actually investigating. Well, tonight's our second night here at the castle. Tomorrow night and Thursday night, we're going to investigate a haunted hotel in Pennsylvania. I think the Grand Midway Hotel. Mess around with Ouija boards. I actually consider it spiritual Russian roulette. I know there's other people that go out there. I don't recommend it. And 95% of demonic hauntings start with the Ouija board. So, but actually, this hotel it's got some creepy history or creepy experiences going on there that people have had throughout the years. And there's actually, I think it's the Guinness World Record biggest Ouija board in the entire country on the top of the roof of the hotel. It's ginormous. So that's going to be pretty interesting. We were just trying to fill up our week with interesting places that we could go to, filming and investigating. And of course, it's October. So, I get excited to go to new places I've never been to because there's just new experiences on the horizon and, you never know what's going to happen. And, it's just, been crazy the last couple of months, but we have that. And then I'm going back to, I've been there actually a few times, St. Albans sanitariums, mental health, there's lots of dark, heavy energy in those types of places always. But I would probably say that like my number one place that I would love to just at least walk through, and even because now I've had personal experience having to do it, is the Amityville house. I know that was like possibly part of the question. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, that was.
Saying about investigation, have you ever been to the UK to investigate anywhere? And is there anywhere somewhere over there you'd like to invest?
Over here.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to travel overseas and investigate, the paranormal. No, I've never been on that side of the planet before, and obviously, unfortunately, with these pandemic stuff, but in the near future. I would love to at some point and go investigate, castles, catacombs, all those sorts of things. 100%. I mean, it's all of it. I mean, when you're a kid, history can be kind of interesting, but I mean, as a paranormal investigator, researcher, or whatever it is you're involved with, I mean, it brings history to life. To have the potential chance to communicate with some of these souls that were alive during a different time period, learn from it, try to help them, and encompass that experience and share it to try to help others. It's just an unfathomable gift. That's humbling. That's why we do what we do, right?
Yep, it sure is.
You've spoken a bit about the first program you was part of, which is Demon Files, but the other program you're known for is Ghost Loop. Do you know how that came about?
That was a concept that the production company came up with, and basically they chose a bunch of us and put us together.
So you didn't know each other beforehand?
Yeah, no. Well, I knew one of the people on the team, actually two of them slightly, but the other couple I had never met them before. That's how these things go sometimes.
Sometimes it depends, doesn't it? We know people that are in different shows and things over here, and sometimes they know each other. Sometimes you just all get thrown in together and you've never met before, and it's just it depends. A lot of the time it comes down to production company, doesn't it? Who they have an idea of who they want, don't they?
Yeah, and that that can hurt you in the long run. It just depends on what the concept is and what you're trying to do and what the ultimate goal is. That show's done. We're not filming anymore.
Okay, that answers another question that one of the public wanted to know. Was there going to be a season 2? I think I think the UK were hoping for it.
No. There's not going to be another season of that, but I'm working on some other potential projects that I would be more. It would be more suited for me. I'd like to be there's certain things I'd like to be involved with that are more incorporated with what I do as an investigator, as a demonologist, and, as a medium and helping people and souls. So, I just keep, whether it's TV or not, I just keep doing what I'm doing. Obviously,
you're passionate about what you're doing. It doesn't matter the way you come across talking to you is, regardless whether you're on TV or whether you're not TV, it doesn't really matter. TV, you come across that TV as a bonus.
Yes.
But as long as you get to do what you do because you're passionate about what you're doing, that's more important.
To be able to be on a platform that has a broader, big audience, that you can show that prayer is powerful, to show to, respect spirits, to show that this stuff is real, to show that we can help people. That's, why I got involved with, Ghost Loop, because we were, supposed to be helping families and things like that. And I was able to bring that element on the show of what I do in helping souls cross and pray for them. And, that's something I've been doing for years. So that was probably the proudest element of the show that I was able to get on there. But, like I said, whether it's TV or not, I just keep doing what I'm doing. I do a lot of live streams, and people witness that stuff. It's a positive element. I do Q&As and I do little lectures, and I have people come on there. I'm sharing my knowledge, sharing my experiences, and you're making a difference. So I'm not just keeping it to myself and, wow, this is great, this is me. It's like, I want to be able to attain the experience, but you got to share it. You got to share it and then meet other people, talking with you people or anyone that's, involved in the paranormal. We can all synergistically learn from each other and progress for the greater good for the spiritual and paranormal community. Obviously, again, when you mix Hollywood and spirituality, you get a lot of the characteristics that go on in Hollywood, with the competition, the backstabbing, the egos, and everyone's better than the other person, and it's a shame. But you learn as you go. I've definitely learned a lot throughout the years myself. I mean, I never thought I'd be on TV for this stuff. When I first started investigating the paranormal, I went out there with just a recorder, and I just sat there. I'm like, oh my God, this shit's real. I mean, I was for the fact that this shit's real. You know what I mean? Like, that was just exciting to me. But then all of a sudden, you get drawn into, and then you learn. I was reading books, and then you end up realizing all right, God's letting these experiences happen to me for a reason. It's not just for me. It's got to be outward. You got to share it and try to help people. And that's what I've been drawn, and I've been doing backstrokes in ever since.
So it's not just the paranormal. It's not just being a writer. It's not just doing your lives and you're educating people. You're also a musician as well.
Yes.
So for anybody that doesn't know about that, you write your own songs?
Yes. Yeah. That was my first passion before I even got involved in the paranormal. My music sounds like a mix between Pearl Jam and Goo Goo Dolls and Switchfoot, if you know the bands. It's like pop rock, a little alternative. And it's just really tough these days to try to make something of yourself in the music. I think when I was really trying to push for myself to be something in the music business is right when Napster came out, and all these record labels are starting to merge, and they're not spending money in development deals on artists. You have to be a guarantee, Justin Bieber type to make it something. So it just makes it a lot tougher, especially someone like me, a solo artist, and and then having to go on shows like The Voice, and I got on, I tried off The Voice and got a call back, but I got, I kind of got turned off because I realized that, some of the people in there were getting calls that didn't even sign up to be on the show, that they're reaching out to people that had some success already. I'm like, there's enough people out there that struggle enough. And I'm like, that doesn't make it any.
And that happens over this side of the pond as well. I think that happens. Yeah. I think it's over there with that show.
And I have more respect for myself. I'm like, I'm getting up there singing someone else's song. I write my own music. It's just frustrating. So, that's why I was lucky over the last couple of years. I just released another EP. It was called 4C.
I was about to ask you about that. I was leading on to that. So everybody about it, because we were leading on to that question.
Yeah, 4C and Shapeshifter are kind of they have the same cover as the book. So they're kind of like a mini soundtrack to those books. There were things that were going on during some of the things in my books. So that's why they have the same cover. And I hope to, obviously record it, again. And those are my two passions. Music and spirituality definitely go hand in hand. And music is like an extension of our emotions, extension of our souls. And obviously with all these experiences, it's a lot of inspiration to be able to write about and incorporate into my writing style. So to say the least.
So you bring all your different passions together.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing to be able to do.
Cross market the two, like I'm paranormal and music. Yeah, I mean, I love creating. Writing is, I would say being a musician and a guitarist and singer. It definitely it's been in my invisible therapist. I mean, things that I've gone through and I had to endure to put words into it, to put it to music, and actually sing some sort of song that actually represents a type of emotion that human beings have. It's a release, and try to help people through lyrics or whatever it is. It's a powerful thing.
And if people want to access your music, how can they access it?
My music's on iTunes. So if you just type in Sean Austin 4C or Sean Austin Shapeshifter, those are the last two names of the EPs. Different Kind of Real was another full album that I did quite a few years back. But those are the last two EPs I've just released within the last couple of years. 4C I just released months ago. And obviously
that's your latest album, isn't it? That's your latest one that you've brought out recently.
4C, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And finally, is there anything else like you want to promote to your Facebook, Twitter, your website? Anything like that you want to?
Yeah, my Instagram is Sean D. Austin, SEAN, D as in David, AUSTIN, which is the same on Twitter. And my website, SeanDAustin.com. You can get information about my books. It has links to all my social media on there. And
all your lives and so on, they can access those as well on there, can't they?
My Periscope is something that is Twitter's live broadcasting thing. If you even want to watch any of my live investigations, which I do all the time, it's my username, Sean D. Austin. You'll see it pop up pretty quickly on Periscope. I'm probably the most active paranormal investigator, I think on Periscope. I mean, most people are on YouTube these days. I try to upload my YouTube videos from Periscope videos that I have, but I've been using Periscope for like 5 years, and it's been a beneficial, good platform.
I think you find that platform that you like, and then you kind of stick with it, don't you? It doesn't matter what you're doing with it. As long as you like it and it works well, then stick with it. Yeah. I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on and talking to us and letting people learn more about you as a person and everything else that you do. Because you have so many different layers that people probably didn't know about until now with the music side of things. As well, all your paranormal stuff. So we will put your links on for everything. So if anybody that was just listening then and thinking, panicking, what were the links again, and having to think they're going to have to keep back rewatching to write it down, we will be doing all of Sean's links for you, so you'll know where to find him and how to find him. We will add all of those in the comments for you, so you're able to access all the different platforms that he's on and how to reach him.
Yeah, so sounds good.
Thank you, Sean.
So thank you
guys so much.
So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from Dennis.
And goodbye from Sean. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of the evening, which I think it's evening your time, correct?
It is. Thank you.
Good luck investigating this weekend.
Thanks, guys. You as well.